Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast presented by rotogrinders.com. I fucked that up so bad. Hold on.
No worries, dude. Go Cavs.
You're
At least every other day I butcher the start of my Rotogrinders video or my on the bump video. It's the same fucking speech over and over again. It's
I
like,
know.
really?
I have
How
the
hard
same intro every day.
Yeah, and I still screw it up.
All right, ready? We're going to start it again. Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's June 17th. It's Friday. We have a nice 14-game slate. Cubs, it's Friday, so the Cubs are playing early, and we don't have to worry about that game. It's one game, so we're going to really focus on this 14-game slate. It's not Hoop, it's Pepsi. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, Stevie. How you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm excited. It's Friday. It's Father's Day weekend. I got a lot of stuff playing with my kid this weekend, so it's going to be a good weekend, my friend.
Absolutely. Any weekend's a good weekend, but when you can bring in some Father's Day gifts and treats, it's going to make it even better.
Yeah, it doesn't stink, man. I'll tell you. There's a lot going on in the industry on Friday. Just a ton of stuff here. But the first thing I want to mention is, the sponsor of the podcast, FantasyDraft.com. We have a special promo running with Fantasy Draft this weekend, or this Friday. Make sure you guys go over to the forums, check it out. It's called Fantasy Draft MLB Ticket Promo. It's going to have some stuff here, giving out additional prizes to people that are playing in the $10,000 home run GPP. So if you plan on playing in that, make sure you guys check that out. If you don't plan on playing it, there's no reason that you shouldn't. It's a two-pitcher site, good pricing, great site. I love it. I play on there every day. If you haven't signed up yet, make sure you use promo code Grinders, support the podcast. If you like this through Monday through Friday, then make sure you sign up using promo code Grinders. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year, which is $180 value. And you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. So with that big tournament and a lot to talk about, Pepsi, let's jump right into these games. And we're going to start with Toronto at Baltimore. What do you think of your Blue Jays here in this game with Aaron Sanchez against Mike Wright?
I'm still a big fan of Aaron Sanchez. The Baltimore Orioles have blown him up a couple times now this season, especially the last start. He gave a bunch of home runs there. For the most part, though, the kid's been dominant. Lefties and righties aren't really touching him. Chris Davis, the only real threat that scares me against Sanchez in this one. I think he's a great one-off play in GPPs, but in general, I'm not really touching the Baltimore bats tomorrow. There's just so much to like that I think at some point you got to kind of stop piling up on teams. And I think Sanchez pitches well in this one. I won't be rostering him. But I think that I can fade these Orioles bats as well. I don't think I'm stacked in the Orioles.
Yeah, I don't know about stack. I don't mind some one-off plays here. Don't mind Sanchez, if you're going to run out multiple tournaments, two-pitcher site. He's in a good spot to get some run support here. Mike Wright facing the Blue Jays. Mike Wright grades out as a really bad starter. So this is a good spot for our boys here, the Blue Jays bats. So let's talk bats first. We'll start with the visiting team here, Baltimore Orioles. Chris Davis. You have to like Chris Davis against Sanchez. Just every time, Davis has faced him, he's mashed him. So I like Davis a lot here.
Yeah, fairly small sample size with that one, but still, enough to consider it something to watch. I mean, I'm just trying to think where it is now. 6 for 10 off of Davis with a double and 3 homers. He's also walked more times than striking out. So Davis, the biggest threat in that lineup. Sanchez has been so good, so dominant versus righties that I'm not big on guys like Adam Jones, Trumbull, or Machado, none of which have hit Sanchez well. Again, fairly small sample size. He's only been in the league a couple of years. But, I think that as a one-off, I like Davis. I'm probably not going anywhere else in Baltimore. If I get crazy and throwing out 20 or 25 entries and GPPs across many sites, I might throw a Baltimore one in there. But in general, I don't expect a lot of upside in these Baltimore bats tonight.
Yeah, I don't love the upside as well, but it is at Rogers Center, or no, it's at Baltimore, which Camden Yards still a pretty favorable ballpark. So, I said visiting Baltimore Orioles. They're at home. I definitely messed that up. I'm all for it today. All right, yeah, Don't mind Chris Davis as a one-off. Pedro Alvarez, another guy, as a one-off. He's shown a lot of power this season. Always goes under-owned in tournaments. The only spot that I would target him is in a tournament. And, he's a guy with 7 home runs this season, really quiet 7 home runs with only 134 at-bats.
Yeah, and he's cheap, too, across the industry. So home run side, it's a cheap power source there for you. The other thing about Sanchez that versus Baltimore matches up fairly well, although not so much in his last start, Baltimore's a team that hits a lot of home runs, and Sanchez, the guy's got pretty good control and generates a really high ground ball rate. So he limits the damage in big innings and, of course, doesn't go with a lot of fly balls. Therefore, he should limit the home runs here. So not the best matchup for Baltimore as well in that regard.
Yeah. So let's talk bats here for Toronto. Mike Wright, high home run per 9 to righties and lefties. Massive WOBA to lefties and righties. Is this a spot where we can stack Blue Jays?
Yeah, and the Jays might be the hottest offense in baseball right now. Encarnacion homered again last night. Donaldson sitting the ball great. Batista left the game tonight. He could be out with an injury there. It's hard to say. But the entire Jays lineup right now is mashing. And Wright's WOBA, career WOBA versus lefties and hard hit rate is atrocious. So I think that a guy like Michael Saunders, another guy that homered last night, I think the whole Jays lineup's pretty much in play. And you can even get some cheap value. Looking for guys like Darwin Barnier or Ryan Goings as your cheap punt plays, or in a stack where you're double stacking Toronto and another team. You get a few pieces like that, and even a Russell Martin. But every bat in the Jays lineup had a hit last night, and they're just rolling right now. So Mike Wright is in some trouble, I think, tonight.
Yeah, definitely a guy we can pick on here. Love the Blue Jays. Love the Blue Jays stack. You really touched on everything. One guy that always seems to go under-owned because you do have Edwin at first base as well. Justin Smoak he's always under-owned. Good tournament play. On Fantasy Draft, you can play both these guys. But I like Smoak on FanDuel where everybody plays Edwin at first in their Blue Jays stacks.
And Smoak much better versus right-handed pitching as well. I could easily see him having a big game at a low ownership.
Arizona at Philly, two lefties taking on each other here in Philadelphia. Robbie Ray, Adam Morgan. Any interest in either one of these pitchers?
To start either one of these? No. There is some merit for Robbie Ray. A lot of guys are going to look at the matchup. Phillies are bad versus lefties. They strike out a fair amount. And Ray does have strikeout upside. But it's that 374 WOBA versus righties with a 40.4% hard hit rate. That kind of scares me off. And we were talking earlier, Stevie, but so many good arms in that moderate price range to even value range across all these sites. I don't know that you have to dig down to a Robbie Ray. Seems like a bit of a trap game to me. I know the Phillies are not a great offense, especially versus lefties, but man, he's been getting hit hard by these righties, and I'm not so sure I can roster him.
I'm not either. If you're running out multiple lineups, let's say you run out 25 lineups and you want to have, no more than 3 or 4 lineups with each pitcher, that's a spot that you might look at Robbie Ray, just because, like you said, he has the strikeout upside. This guy's averaging over a strikeout per inning this season. Philadelphia strikes out a ton against lefties, but they have a couple right-handed bats that we can, worry about, and that we're actually going to target here when we talk bats. So let's start it off with the Arizona bats here against Adam Morgan. He's really struggled with right-handed batters, and he's going to face some really good righties in this lineup. 35% hard contact with a 355 WOBA and a 1.65 home run per 9. Who do you like here for the Diamondbacks?
Well, obviously Paul Goldschmidt, a notorious lefty killer. Hasn't been the case this year too much, but he started to heat up recently, so he's the guy that we're certainly looking at. The beef, Mr. Wellington Castillo, is also in play at catcher, and we got some cheaper ones too. In the outfield, you got 3 options: Brendan Drury, you got Ricky Weeks Jr., and you got drawing a blank to the third guy. Jean Segura is another guy at second base I'd look at there too. And Pete O'Brien was the other guy I was thinking of in the outfield for Arizona. So cheapies all over the map. Great ballpark in Philadelphia there for them to hit in. And the Phillies pen is not that great either, as we expect Morgan to probably not last that long. So Arizona has been really disappointing as an overall team, offensively in these spots. They disappoint us. But whether we take a batter or 2 here or you stack 4 or 5 guys here, they're in a great spot again tonight. I don't think we can ignore them.
Yeah, looking at Peter O'Brien, a lot of people are going to see he's struggled 60.067 batting average, 1 hit and 15 at bats. That was a home run, but this guy, I think it was 330 at Reno with 15 home runs and 50 plus RBIs. This is a really good spot from him considering everything and considering Ray's hard contact rate to righties. You're going to get O'Brien at a really cheap price pretty much everywhere, and he's one of my favorite value/punt plays here on the slate.
Yeah, big time power from this kid. Sure, he's going to strike out a lot, but it makes contact. It's going to leave the ballpark, especially in Citizens Bank Park there. That's a bandbox there. So he could be one of the best value plays out there. Another cheap power source across the industry.
Now, looking at Philadelphia on Fantasy Draft, these guys are really priced down. Just about all of these guys are really cheap. Almost every single one of them under $7K. Who do you like here in this matchup against Robbie Ray?
Well, first of all, Maikel Franco has been one of the best hitters on the Phillies this season. Probably hitting the middle of that order. You really like him. Hasn't really been a lefty masher per se this season, but again, with Ray giving it up so bad, the righties, I think Franco's your top option. He's very well priced across the industry. And a couple of cheapies that I really like. Cameron Rupp's got some power behind the plate if he gets to start. And Tommy Joseph as well at first base tends to be starting over Ryan Howard these days. So another cheap option there. So some cheap big upside here from the Phillies bats, and even make a pretty good mini stack if you want to stack them with an ace or two with the Jays or Houston or one of these other more expensive teams. I think that could work as well.
Yeah, pretty much like all these guys here. So what are your thoughts on Tyler Goodell?
On Tyler Goodell?
Yeah.
I'm okay with him again. It's another cheap bat with some upside there. You got to assume he's going to play, I would think, in that outfield there. I'm kind of lukewarm on him, I guess. But again, another guy that has the potential at a pretty cheap price. It depends, too. His spot in the order is likely going to be a little lower than guys like Joseph and Rupp, who I think could hit 5 and 6. We know Franco's probably going to hit 3. So I would rank him 4th out of that group. But again, if you're looking for value, man, he represents some good value.
Yeah, I'd love Rupp in this matchup. Both catchers from this game, just excellent cash game plays here. Just a good spot to look at your catcher. And I agree with you on Joseph and Franco. We're pretty much on the same page in this game as a whole. So a lot of bats we can target here. Atlanta at New York, Matt Harvey, John Gant. No interest in Gant. I'll let you take it here. Who do you have here for Harvey and Gant?
Well, John Gant is a late bloomer. He was in the Kelly Johnson, Jose Uribe trade last year. So average stuff, really. Mid-90s fastball, curve, and changeup. He projects to be as high as number 3 or possibly just a 5th starter or out of the bullpen. So basically, at best, this guy's going to be an average starter. I think the Mets lefties take advantage of that today. So I'm not rostering Gant at all. I don't want to see the upside here. But Matt Harvey, he's looked pretty good in his last 3 starts. The Ks are still a bit of a question mark. I know he struck out 8 Brewers, but pretty much everybody strikes out the Brewers, especially if you're right-handed. So, Atlanta doesn't offer up a lot of strikeouts, but I think we have to start believing in Harvey. He's looked much better. He's kept his velocity gains. I think he gets to win today, which is very important on some sites. I think he can go 6 or 7 innings here. We don't have an elite guy on the mound today. Harvey is one of those many moderately priced guys we can look at. I think Harvey's pretty safe. I think he pitches 6 or 7 quality innings. It's possible he gets a K per inning. This is really a bad Atlanta team. And the Mets probably score and give him run support versus Gant. So I guess we have to really like Harvey. I mean, it's been 3 starts in a row that have been decent.
Yeah, man. Like you said, he's only given up 2 earned runs in his last 20 innings. So that's very, very nice when we're looking at that. The strikeout rate has been there, outside of the at Miami game. But Miami as a team, they're not striking out too much this season, so I can kind of get behind that. But, I hate calling Matt Harvey safe. I think that, you make valid points in here, and I do like Harvey as a tournament play. I just don't know if he's the guy that I'm going to look at in cash games. While I do think that he's in a good spot to get a win here. Gant is not a guy that we're going to like. We're going to target some of these Mets bats, so Harvey definitely in a spot to get a win. So for that aspect, I guess on FanDuel, he's pretty safe for those 12 points.
Yeah, I think Harvey is best used on FanDuel in tournaments just because the win's very important over there. And if he's going to win, he's likely gone 6, maybe 7, and pitched at least to the extent of a quality start. So that's where he's more important to me. I don't mind him as a second pitcher as well. Again, like you said, safe is kind of tough to say with Harvey this year, but it's been very encouraging what he's done recently, and we know the talent is there. So, I really got no problems with Harvey in any format. I do prefer him as a one-off GPP option on a site like FanDuel, but I'm very comfortable with him, believe it or not, as a number 2 in your cash games on any site tonight.
Now, looking at the bats here in this game, we'll start with the Braves against Harvey. One bat that instantly stands out to me, Freddie Freeman is scorching right now. 10 for his last 18. He has, I think, 6 extra base hits with 3 home runs in this 4-game stretch. He's hitting the ball hard right now, and it's hard not to like him in tournaments.
Yeah, you can see the upside there. Although, like we talked about, Harvey's controls and better, his walks are down. I don't see Freeman doing a whole lot of damage. To be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to have any exposure to Freeman despite him being so hot. For those BVP guys out there, 2 for 12 with 3 strikeouts off of Harvey. So he's handled him quite well in the past. None of these Braves have really hit Harvey. That's no surprise that the Braves are awful. Yeah, I can see that as an a la carte play, but for me, I think I'm going to be fading the Braves and having plenty of exposure to Harvey.
And I think that's fair. One thing that we do want to note, they've been playing in Atlanta. It's been in the 90s, and I think the last 3 or 4 games there. They're going to New York, where it's going to be in the mid to upper 70s, and it's going to drop down into the 60s here in this game. So not as good as air index as what we've seen in Atlanta. So definitely something that we want to note. Looking now here at the Mets bats, Wilmer Flores left the game early with a hand contusion on Thursday night. I'm hoping that means Kelly Johnson gets the start here. And I never thought I would be so excited to see Kelly Johnson start.
Yeah, he's been hitting the ball well, and he's a lefty. I imagine these lefty Mets, and they've got a lot of them, are going to have some success versus Gant and a pretty weak Atlanta Braves bullpen. I mean, the usual suspects, Curtis Granderson, Neil Walker, Michael Conforto, all of which have homered last night, or have homered tonight. Of course, we're taping this the night before. So I love all the lefty Mets. Of course, Cespedes always in play with that big power of his. So the Mets are definitely a team you can get some exposure to in cash. You probably want to have some exposure to them in tournaments as well. Because I think the upside's there. Like I said, this Gant kid has pitched well, good control, decent strikeout stuff, but it's a whole new ball game coming up to major leagues and facing a potent team versus righties. So the Mets should be popular tomorrow for good reason.
I don't want to get into this too much, but just looking at the slate when I was breaking it down, I don't think a stack is going to win a tournament tonight.
Interesting. I
think that we're going to see a lot of like 2-man little like mini stacks on a bunch of teams. There's just so many teams you want exposure to tonight.
Yeah, which means, it could go that way, which I could see that as well. Or I could see it being a double stack because, like you said, you got a lot of teams that should be able to score double-digit runs. If you can nail those 2 teams, might be the double stack that takes it down. But it's interesting because I think all 3 ways work tonight. I think a random team, like you said, of maybe a 2-2-2, 3-3-2, or just random players in good spots. I think a single stack or even a double stack could take a tournament down. So it's a great slate for all formats, and I'm excited about this already. And I'm not sure what my GPP approach is going to be just yet, but I'm a stacker. So I'll definitely be doing some stacking, perhaps some double stacking. And I hope you're wrong, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, and I could easily be wrong. I just there's so many teams I want exposure to. It's definitely a multi-team type of day. It's not I don't know if today's a single entry kind of day for me. Seattle at Boston. Iku Kuma against Ellis. Man, this is just another game where do we really like these pitchers here?
Yeah, I mean, no. I don't know that we don't want to wash them. That's the easy part, What I'm wondering is how much do I want to attack these 2 guys, and I still haven't figured this out. I mean, Iku Kuma's a decent pitcher, but you're going to Boston in Fenway Park and maybe the most hitter-friendly ballpark in all of baseball against the most potent by far offense that they've been discussing this year. So I want no part of Akuma. Aronis Elias, he's been a good pitcher. You look at his numbers, his WOBA versus lefties and righties, he doesn't really have splits issues. He's been solid. He could easily start as a number 4 or 5 for many teams, in my opinion. So again, not rosterable, but do I think either of these guys get rocked? My first instinct is no. But then I think it's Fenway Park, and we could easily see a 10-8 game.
Yeah, huge ballpark shift here for the Mariners. Nelson Cruz against the lefty. I feel like Nelson Cruz, Gutierrez, and Lee is where I'm going to look at here for Seattle. You get Lee and Gutierrez at such a good discount here. And Nelson Cruz against the lefty. I don't need to say anything else. This guy just absolutely mashes left-handed pitching.
Yeah, he is the guy that we invented the notorious lefty killer saying for. Gutierrez has been fantastic, as well as you mentioned. Daeheo Lee, very cheap option for power. And Chris Iannetta, his price has been skyrocketing, but this guy's been on fire, and he smashes lefties too. So sneaky little 4-man lefty or righty stack for the Mariners, certainly in play tonight.
Yeah, now looking at the other side of things here, how much Red Sox exposure do we want? Do we want to play these guys as one-offs, or is this a spot we just, we look to stack them? They disappointed here on Thursday night. They should be a little under-owned because of recency bias. I feel like this might be a good stack to go back to the well on.
Yeah, you mentioned recency bias, which hopes that the stack is low tonight. Perhaps the matchup is perceived as difficult with Akuma, although he has been not great with the home runs. He's going to be a lot of home runs this season, and he's allowing a lot more contact than usual. So, Boston's just sick, man. They're a gross team, and you're going to want exposure to them. They're so expensive across the industry because they've been so good. They're hard to stack anyway. So I think you're better off with a couple of pieces. Hopefully you can get the right pieces. Perhaps you stack them multiple ways. Maybe a little bets with Bogarts here and then big pocket with Pedroia there, whatever the combination is. Because you can't just go, okay, I'm taking these 4 or 5 Red Sox and a couple aces, and you can't do that. You can't afford it. So you're going to have to do one-offs or a couple of pieces here and there. But I don't think you want to fade the Red Sox. I mean, you look at the slate. If you're a guy like me that's going, okay, how many teams do I want to stack, or how many teams do I want to expose it to, you kind of want to start fading guys. And I see Acuna on the mound, and generally that's a fade for me. But I don't think you can fade Boston in any tournaments. I mean, you're really rolling the dice if you fade Boston tonight.
Yeah, I have to agree with you here. You're definitely rolling the dice. Love Poppy always. This guy just continues to mash the baseball. I like him a lot here. Jackie Bradley Jr., another guy that's hitting the ball well. Xander's hitting the ball well. And then just kind of, fit in your other pieces around them in a stack here like the Red Sox. Colorado at Miami, Jon Gray, Adam Conley. What's your thoughts here on Conley and Gray?
There is some merit to both these guys today. Again, first glance, with so many arms I like in that tier, I don't think I'm going to have a whole exposure to them in tournaments. I think they're both tournament plays. Gray certainly has great upside outside of Coors Field. We know he's been tremendous. His strikeout rate is great. But the Marlins are a contact team. They're getting healthier. They'll strike out a whole lot. Of course, Stanton's been awful. That'll certainly help them. So I don't have to have Gray here, although I'm a big fan of it. And the same with Conley. He's been inconsistent, but he's showing a good strikeout rate. And righties haven't really affected him too much either. Struck them out pretty consistently. So, and we know the Rockies are not a great team on the road in this ballpark. Obviously, pretty tough for hitters. So I think they're both in play. I see some upside there. But for me, they're just not on my radar as of yet.
Yeah, this is a massive ballpark shift for Jon Gray. He's going from Coors Field to Miami. Miami, one of the biggest ballparks in baseball. Really friendly pitcher park here. Jon Gray's numbers, 20% strikeout rate at home, 30% strikeout rate on the road in his career. The whip goes down, the average goes down, the FIP and xFIP go down. This is just a guy that outside of Coors Field I've targeted all season. And, if he didn't pitch at Coors Field, this would be a guy that would probably be in the top 15 in pitching numbers this season. But unfortunately, he pitches at Coors Field. 8,200 on FanDuel. It just seems too cheap for him. And looking at Adam Conley, at least the Rockies have hit left-handed pitching a little bit better this season. I don't know how much they're going to get to Conley here. I really don't like the Rockies a lot. I like them enough to, get Jon Gray a couple runs for run support. I don't think the win is guaranteed here for Jon Gray, but I love his upside here.
Yeah, the upside's there, as you mentioned, especially outside of Coors. I agree with you. I'm not sure the Rockies win for him, which is certainly more important on FanDuel, as you mentioned, his price being only 82 there. But my concern is that, not that we can take out the 2 starts at San Diego, but that's 23 strikeouts in 13 innings. If we look at his other road starts, now they weren't easy. San Francisco, Boston, and St. Louis, you have a total of 14 strikeouts in those 21 innings. So, Miami maybe is not Boston, St. Louis, or San Francisco. Obviously, those are much better offenses. But they are, like I said, a contact-oriented team that doesn't strike out a whole lot. So I think his strikeout percentage of 30% on the road is kind of inflated with those 2 starts in Petco against an awful Padres team. So can he go 6 or 7 innings, strike out 5 or 6 and get a win? Sure. But I don't see a double-digit strikeout upside in this game, I guess is what I'm saying here.
Oh, I don't think he has double-digit strikeout upside as well. I'm looking for 8, and I think that's a fair number. It would probably end up more closer to the 6 or 7, but the upside I'm looking for is 7. I think that's a ceiling, or 8 is his ceiling here.
Yeah, and I can say as well, I just think there's a lot of pitchers in that price range across the industry, and his price range, that can do similar better things that are safer for a win or have more upside. Like we mentioned, Matt Harvey versus Atlanta. Atlanta's probably not going to hurt him. I could see him striking just as many as Gray, even though I think Gray is a better strikeout pitcher right now. And it's a few more pitches that we're going to get into in that same price range. I just think have more upside.
Now, looking at Adam Conley here against the Rockies, a team that's in the bottom 10 in WRC Plus as a team against left-handed pitching this season. Conley, we don't have a lot of data on him yet, but what we've seen so far since getting called up last year is a little bit of semi-reverse splits. He has some decent numbers against righties. He struggled with lefties, even though the sample size is small. Is this a spot we might not play Conley, but we might just move off of these Rockies here?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say that, there's less upside when you consider those numbers you mentioned. He's got worse numbers versus lefties. Not that they're crushing him necessarily, but they're hitting decent. And at some point, you got to figure the righties going to get them a little more so than they have. And Arenado, obviously a righty who is matchup proof there. So even though it's a good ballpark and Conley showing some good upside with the strikeouts and the Rockies are not the same team on the road, I think this matchup is at least neutral in all those areas, and it's enough to keep me off of Conley. Again, because we have so many good arms in that same price tier that Conley will be in. I don't think we need to go there. I just don't see the upside for him either.
Yeah, even with the Rockies just being so bad against lefties, striking out at a really high rate at 24% this season, I just don't know if I can go Conley here. I don't know. I don't think he gets rocked, for what it's worth. I just don't think that the Rockies or the Marlins get to Gray here. I don't like really any bats here outside of maybe Arenado as a one-off tournament play just because I don't love third base.
Yeah, I completely agree. This whole game to me, outside of Arenado, as a one-off, like you said, is basically off limits. Now, if I end up making a bunch more tournament laps, I think if I get a little bit of exposure to Gray somewhere, yeah, that's possible. But not much. And aside from that, and possibly Arenado, as you said, this game, to me, it doesn't really exist.
Hey, your mic is fuzzing up. Can you unplug it and plug it back in or something? I'll edit this part out.
Yep, done. How's that?
It sounds like static. It just started at the very last part there.
Yeah, I didn't really change or do anything differently here.
It just doesn't like me.
Is it still doing it?
It's not as bad. It'll be fine.
You want me? Is this any better?
No.
Should I try turning this off and back on? All right, same thing. Any better? Nothing?
It's still the same. It's fine. It's not as bad.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the hell it is. I'm not very tech savvy. I can't tell you what I'm doing differently. I mean,
me either, dude. It'd be fine. It'd be a little staticky, but if people want to listen, they'll listen, or they'll bitch and complain, and that's nothing new. San Francisco at Tampa Bay. Jeff Samardzija, Chris Archer. When we're looking at this slate, Tampa at Tampa. This is definitely a ballpark you want to target pitchers in. Evan Longoria. Forearm, not in the lineup Thursday. It's day-to-day. Good chance he comes back here on Friday. Good chance he sits. It's probably really a 50-50 situation. Any thoughts here on Samardzija and Archer?
Yeah, it's another game where I think it's going to be a complete fade for me. To me, with Archer, he certainly looked better. We had that strikeout upside that we saw last season coming out again. He's limited the walks a little bit, therefore the runs have come down a bit as well. But San Francisco is a very difficult team. Not a team I like to have pitchers roster against. Again, contact oriented, don't strike out a lot, very deep lineup. So I don't see the upside for Archer at his price across the industry. And on the flip side, you got the shark here, Samardzija. He's facing a Tampa Bay team that does strike out a ton, but they've been striking out a lot less lately. And they're getting fully healthy, assuming that Longoria is back in the game there. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of exposure to either of these guys because, again, I don't see Samardzija necessarily getting the win versus Archer either, which, again, depending on the site, could be very important to you. So I'm kind of looking at this game as a fade. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of exposure to the pitchers, nor do I want to attack these guys.
I think it's an easy game fade. I really do. Brandon Belt's banged up. There's a good chance that, he sits. If he sits, Posey will probably play first. Nothing really stands out to me here. Maybe Brandon Crawford in a tournament, shortstop, not a position that we get a lot of upside from. He continues to have good upside. He might be the one guy that I look at in this whole game, might have Samardzija or Archer on a two-pitcher site, but really this is a kind of a stay-away game for me.
Yeah, and on the flip side of the Giants there, I might go with Corey Dickerson as a one-off, just like your Crawford there. I see potential for a home run anytime he faces a righty there although he's been quite inconsistent this season. The power is certainly there, but I'm kind of with you. I think I'm just going to ignore this game and concentrate on the other games here as we go through them.
Yeah, just nothing really like stands out here. So I think this is a game where I'm really not going to be afraid to just kind of overlook it. Chicago at Cleveland, the White Sox and the Indians here. Quintana against Trevor Bauer. Quintana, man, he's actually having a pretty decent season. The one bad thing, though, this White Sox bullpen has really fallen apart over the last, 2 to 4 weeks?
Yeah, this is a team that the best bullpen in baseball for the first, 6 or 8 weeks of the season. Now they come tumbling down here. Quintana, though, might be the best kept secret in baseball last couple of seasons. He's been tremendous, almost a K per inning. He's got 81 strikeouts compared to 17 walks. He's only allowed 5 home runs. Neither lefties or righties are really getting to him. Just a great pitcher. Problem with tonight, tough matchup. The Indians don't strike out a lot again. Got a lot of guys that hit lefties well. You should see Rajai Davis leading off. Carlos Santana, Francisco Lindor switch hitting. So there's a lot of Napoli having a rejuvenated season as well. So the matchup's not great for him. I don't like the K upside here. And again, so many pitchers in that same price range. They're all kind of bottled together within $500 to $800 of each other on every site pretty much. Do you really need to go here with Quintana? My answer is no.
I think so too. I don't mind him. I think that he's in a pretty good spot for a win here against Trevor Bauer. But, they have a couple bats that hit left-handed pitching well. So it makes it a situation with the bullpen behind him just struggling so much and the win being so important. I just think this is a spot that I'm going to stay away. Any interest in Trevor Bauer here?
I don't think so. Again, the White Sox, not a team I love to pick on. They're full of contact guys again, and some power upside there. We know that Bauer will have issues with the home run ball, so even when he's showing his gems, giving up that 2-run, 3-run homer can really kill you here. I don't know if the win's there for him. I don't see a lot of strikeouts here for him. He's inconsistent. He's another one of these pitchers in that Robbie Ray tier that I don't think we have to have today. The prices are down across the industry for the most part because there's no aces on the mound. You can afford to get these bats in is a better explanation than saying the prices are down. But you get the idea. We don't have to pay up for a Kershaw tonight. So with the 2 pitchers you roster or the 1 pitcher, depending on the site you're on, you can afford to get a decent lineup without digging too deep. So I don't think we got to dig down for Bauer, and he's just not a guy that I trust.
Yeah, I think that's expert analysis there, my friend. Now let's look at the bats here in this game. Let's look at White Sox. Is there anything that really stands out to you here against Bauer?
Abreu is the one guy. Jose Abreu is the guy that I think can take him deep. Again, Bauer has had go-varitis at times. The rest of the lineup of the White Sox, I dug into the BVPs for pretty much each game as I was going through my checklist here prior to the show, and none of these White Sox have hit him at all. He's had a lot of success against them. Not necessarily a lot of punch-outs, but just not hitting him. So I'm not really on the White Sox here. Again, it's another game that I'm pretty much going to fade because I like the pitching. I just don't love it. And aside from maybe a few of these righty bats, Rajai Davis to me is a nice one-off just because he's so good versus lefties, and we know he'll steal versus them as well. So even if he's not ripping 3 hits off, if he gets on base once or twice, he can score and get a run as well. So I think he's in place. So on the Indian side, I go Rajai. The White Sox, I go Abreu. Other than that, it's another one of these games that I think we can fade.
One other person I want to throw out there is Mike Napoli. He's hitting left-handed pitching really well over the last, 10 years. So one guy that I would play in a tournament, he has 14 home runs this season. Really quiet 14 home runs from Mike Napoli. Not a lot of people roster him. He's cheap. He's 3,100 on FanDuel. Rajai Davis, 3,800. Even in the leadoff spot against a lefty, I just don't know if I can pay $3,800 for Rajai Davis.
And you don't have to tomorrow. I mean, that's simply a one-off GPP option. I agree it's expensive, and Quintana's not a guy, even though Davis hits southpaws so well, not a pitcher that I need to pick on. But Napoli, man, fountain of youth for him.
And I agree with you on Abreu. I don't mind Adam Meaton as well. He's hitting the ball well right now. Todd Frazier, I think Todd Frazier's the guy you're just going to get 0 for 4 or 1 for 4 with a home run at this point of the season.
Yeah, never a bad GPP option. The Todd father, of course, has the multi-homer upside. And again, Bauer will give it up at times. But, they never faced each other before either, so it's hard to know where they set up. But, Bauer's been decent against righties here. So, again, there is some merit to stock on the White Sox. You could pretty much stack 90% of the teams tonight without an ace on the mound. But I think it's another team I'll be fading and hoping Bauer pitches at least decent.
Game I like a lot tonight, Cincinnati at Houston. Lance McCullers, John Lamb. It'd be interesting. This ballpark is a very favorable hitter's ballpark anyway, but it's supposed to be in like the high 90s to 100s. If this roof is open, the ball is just going to fly out of this place. Lance McCullers here struggled his last time out, was super high against Tampa, and that was one of those games where we start to see Tampa started to get healthy there. But Lance McCullers has one of the best knuckle curveballs I've seen in the last 5 years. The guy this knuckle curve, I think it's amazing. What's your thoughts here?
Outside of maybe Aaron Nola,
yeah,
the best curveball in baseball. I guess knuckle curve, you want to call it that. I know he refers to it as a curveball, but you're right, it's not your typical curveball. I love McCullers, and I was all over him in tournaments against Tampa Bay. And even when I saw that Tampa Bay lineup come out, I went, ooh, Forsythe is back in there, and wow, the lineup's looking pretty good. I started to figure I should get away from McCullers, but I couldn't. I just saw the strikeout rate versus righties for Tampa and McCullers' ability to go double digits with Ks, and I had to roll him out there. And again, the walks killed him. This is a guy that when he gets strike one is dominant, but he rarely does this. He's frustrating, which is why he's only going 5 and 6 innings in the game here. But that being said, you got to like him again today. The Reds are start off as a pretty good team versus righties. They're now in the bottom third of the league in terms of WOBA, WRC plus. They're striking out a little above league average now, which is great for McCullers, but there's enough there. Again, I like it. I think the win's there too. So again, if you're on a set like FanDuel where the win's important, I think McCullers climbs your list because you probably get 6 innings, you get 6 Ks, you probably get a win there. I just worry though, there's some big power in Cincinnati. Duvall, Votto, Bruce, those guys can take them deep in the juice box there in that ballpark, and makes me a little nervous just seeing how he couldn't harness his control last game, and that makes me really nervous. But at home, is it a different story, Stevie?
I feel like this is a spot. I talk about this on the podcast all the time. McCullers, I feel like I'll have him in a few lineups, but I'm all for hedging your McCullers lineups with some Cincinnati stacks here. Just like you said, I expect him to either go out and dominate this game or to get beat up a little bit. And if he gets beat up, I want to have the opposite side of that as well.
Yeah, I think that this is a perfect tournament play today. The upside is there. The win is probably there. You're going to get walks and runs. You're going to get strikeouts. You're going to get both strikeouts and walks. This guy you don't know. I certainly much better at home than on the road, like a night and day if you look at his numbers. So that certainly helps for him here, but not a guy I think we can just trust yet in our cash games. There's a lot of other good and safer options on the board.
Yeah, just looking at the Reds offense, like you mentioned, really bottom of the league in a lot of numbers now against righties. I love Team WRC plus. I look at that a lot when I'm looking at starting pitchers. And the Reds, they rank 27th in Team WRC plus. Let's get rid of those numbers like inflated there at Cincinnati, that small ballpark, and really see what Cincinnati is really doing. And I think this is a really good spot to target McCullers in tournaments. Let's talk bats here. You don't have any interest in John Lamb, I'm guessing?
No, I don't think we want to roster John Lamb. I mean, this is an average left-handed pitcher. Doesn't strike out a lot of people, which is bad news when you're facing the Astros in that ballpark with some of these lefty killers they have.
All right, so I told you what I was going to do with Cincinnati here. I'm going to probably have a couple hedge stacks. What's your thoughts on the Reds?
At the moment, again, because I'm going to limit myself in tournaments, I could see myself having a red stack or two with, like I said, Votto, Bruce, and Duvall, just because the home run upside in the ballpark there, more so for Duvall and the Crawford boxes, of course, than the lefties. But, perhaps a mini stack with Cincinnati, and it's fairly cheap, too, so you can go ahead and double stack it like if you wanted. But for the most part, I don't really want to pick on McCullers. I mean, to give you an idea of these home numbers versus road. McCullers at home, 250 ERA. On the road, 6.89. Batting average against at home, 206, which is terrific, and 317 on the road. So this guy's a totally different pitcher when he's on that mound at Minute Maid Park. So I don't have to attack him too heavily. And if it gets to the point where I feel like I'm making too many lineups, I got no problem fading the Reds and hoping that McCullers pitches as well as he has all season at home.
I think that's definitely fair. Now, looking at bats here against John Lamb, it's the usual suspects, right? It's Altuve, it's Springer, it's Correa, it's Evan Gattis.
Absolutely. Love the Houston bats today. Not only are you facing an average pitcher, doesn't strike very many people out. This is a guy that's given up a 369 WOBA, 38.3% hard hit rate, and a 1.5 home run to 9 rate versus righties. Those are all great numbers if you're stacking the Astros. Not to mention, once they knock Lamb out of the game, likely in the 5th or 6th at the very latest, you're facing by far the worst bullpen I have ever seen. In that ballpark, man, they can keep going. So I absolutely love Houston. They have to be the top team to target in all formats, I think.
100% agree. That bullpen is bad. I wanted to get some exposure here in cash games with Houston on fantasy draft. I feel like Springer at 8,800, he's under that 9K, really in that elite price tag. I feel like at 8,800, I think he's a little underpriced here.
I would agree with you. And the best part about these Houston guys is not only they all hit home runs and doubles and whatnot, they all steal bases too, and they'll double steal all the time. So it doesn't matter who's on base. Correa, Altuve, Springer, they'll all go, which is a huge bonus. When your steals are hard to come by these days, that we know, Stevie. So it's a huge bonus when you get a stolen base or two in your cash games, which just makes these Houston bats even more appealing.
Yankees at the Twins taking on Minnesota, and Pat Dean here against Tanaka. What's your thoughts here on Tanaka?
At first I looked at this and thought, what, we like Tanaka here. He's been much better than we expected. The strikeouts have been there for the most part. The Twins strike out a ton versus righties. Then when you dig in a little bit, you see a guy that hasn't been great recently. The strikeouts have come way down. We know his arm's holding on by a thread, or at least we think it is. And again, I look at all the pitchers in the price range below him or around him, because he's fairly high on most sites. And I think, I guess I don't really have to go there. That being said, decent ballpark. Twins are bad, strike out a ton. Yankees should be able to get some run support against Pat Dean. He's certainly in play in all formats for me. I guess it's the price concern. Do I want to pay up for a guy that could end up going 6 innings with 4 Ks like he's been doing recently?
Yeah, only one time out of the last 7 games has he had more than 4 strikeouts. So it was a 7 strikeout game against the White Sox, but 6 out of his last 7, 4 or less strikeouts. The thing is, I think he's a pretty safe option, but I don't see any type of upside here for his price tag. I don't even think that at his price tag on FanDuel, I don't even think that I want any exposure here.
And the Twins have been better. They're striking out last, still 22.6% versus righties, which is the 10th most in Major League Baseball. So they can be had there. But like you said, once in his last 7, that's kind of scary. Why is he going? And he's going 6 and 7 in all of these games. It's not like he's getting beat up. He's going 6 and 7 innings, and he's striking out 2, 3, 4 batters. Something seems off to me there because of that. If it was 1 or 2 starts, I wouldn't worry about it because the matchup's so good. But when you consider the fact that it's 6 in a row in this case, or 5 in a row at least, and he's, like you said, 6 of the last 7, that's just got me a little bit iffy there. And with so many other arms, like I said, in that same area, I don't think fading Tanaka is going to hurt you, and I think I'm going to play it safe and just kind of stay away from him, even though there is some merit to starting him in any format.
Yeah, there's definitely merit to starting him. I agree there. It's just I just don't see the upside. Like you said, it's a month now. It's a whole month. It's not 2 starts. It's a whole month of seeing what he's been doing, and it's just not impressive. Now on the other side here, Pat Dean, we love targeting left-handed pitchers against the Yankees. They are not good against left-handed pitching, but Pat Dean, no, don't do that. We want some exposure here, don't we? Pat Dean's not a very good pitcher.
Yeah, he's a soft toss and lefty. He's been okay at best. Righties have really hammered him pretty good. He's held lefties in check pretty good. And again, the lefties for the Yankees, haven't been great, but A-Rod, Castro, Hicks, they're all in play. Beltran's in play there, but that doesn't mean I would fade guys like Ellsbury, Gardner, McCann either. I think the whole Yankees lineup's in play. Like I said, Pat Dean's just an average pitcher. The Twins' bullpen is average at best as well. Not the best ballpark. Don't have to stack the Yankees here, but I'm not against stacking them either. It's just they're a tough team to figure out more so when they're facing a lefty. Do you want to go with guys like Hicks and A-Rod and Castro, or do you want to stick with the usual guys of Ellsbury, Beltran, Gardner, McCann? So it's a tough thing to figure out. None of those lefties that I referred to are bad versus lefties. They just limit the upside a little bit. I know they haven't been great, but I don't mind starting Jacoby Ellsbury or Gardner or McCann versus lefties. But I guess what I'm trying to say is some exposure, but don't go crazy with the Yankees tonight.
I'm on the same page. Castro, he's cheap over on FanDuel. Second base eligibility. Second base is always a position that's not great, so it'd be interesting to see where he hits. It'd be interesting to see if McCann or Romine gets to start here. And really, maybe A-Rod as a one-off if you don't love the Yankees here.
Yeah, I could see home run upside from A-Rod. Like I said, Dean, not a guy that strikes out a lot of guys, so your righties are going to make contact versus him. Aaron Hicks, that I mentioned earlier, a sneaky, cheaper outfield play too. Hopefully gets a better launch spot than usual, the usual 8th there. But any of those righties, I think, are decent. Even in your cash games, because they're fairly cheap or moderately priced, I think these Yankees make some good wood, put some good contact on Dean in the first couple of bats.
Now, looking at the Twins here, I have 2 bats that I like for the Twins, but I want to get your thoughts first.
You know, it's another team I think that I'm probably fading here. Tanaka versus righties has been decent. He's not getting hit. We talked about the fact he's not striking anybody out, but he's not giving up a lot of hits or home runs either. I don't want to pick on him. Again, if you're going to narrow things down on a 14-game slate where there's a lot to love, I think we can cross the Twins off my list. So I'm interested to see who you got your eye on here.
Yeah, Tanaka's a guy that even when he's pitching good, he gives up a lot of hard contact. We've seen that ever since 2014, his first season. He's given up the hard contact. So 2 guys that I like here for tournaments is Grossman. He's just been hitting the ball so well lately. And Park. Park has the upside. So he's going to be a less than 5% owned, probably less than 3% owned play here. Tanaka, Park, little overseas rivalry here, Narrative Street. I just like the upside of Park here. Like you said, Tanaka, good numbers against righties, but still the hard contact is still there. So only takes 1.
I can certainly see that. Grossman's the guy I think will cool off, but Park certainly has the upside, and maybe he's got a better idea of Tanaka because he's seen him pitch before, or maybe they've even faced each other. I don't know. But I can see that as well. So you're right. You're going to get the low percentage own. They're both in decent spots. I guess nobody's touching Twins versus Tanaka. So I think they're better as a one-off or as a 2, but I won't be on them. So if they go off, all the luck to you.
Yeah, Grossman just continues to be so cheap. I've continued to keep playing him, so I like him there. Detroit at Kansas City, taking on the Royals. Michael Fulmer, Ventura. Gerardo Ventura has just been bad, right? Like, it's not even like underestimating it being bad. This guy, the walks have been down over the last couple starts. He went out and had a really good game against the White Sox, but I can't get behind it.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not going to start Yordan Ventura. He's one of the most hated pitchers in baseball for me, a guy that just keeps throwing at people because they're beating him. That drives me nuts. I think that he should have got 30 games for hitting Machado. I can't like the guy. I can't get behind him. Of course, we have to pick with our brain and not with our hearts, of course, and when it comes to daily fantasy sports. But a guy that's been pitching better, as you mentioned, especially his last time out, he's got good stuff. Not a guy I need to pick on in this ballpark. He's been better late. The hard hit percentage has come down to both lefties and righties recently. The Tigers have an explosive offense. They have the home run upside there. But again, I think it's another team we can fade. I think Ventura's fine. He's got some extra room in Kauffman Stadium in case he gives up a little bit of a fly ball or a hard hit ball. I don't see the Tigers hammering him, but I can't simply roster him.
Yeah, one other thing that I want to note about this game, it's the same thing that we saw on Thursday night. It's supposed to be in the upper 90s at first pitch here and stay through pretty much the whole game in the 90s. That's great, man. Ball is going to be flying. I know it's Kauffman, but anytime you can get a baseball game in the upper 90s, it's always good, right?
Absolutely, especially if you're looking for home runs there. So Kauffman needs that kind of upside just to get them to be neutral. So it's just a tough park. And, like I said, with Ventura pitching a little better, I think you can see some Tigers as one-offs here. I don't know that I'd be stacking the Tigers in this park against Ventura tonight, even though he hasn't been great this season.
Yeah, I think the biggest news that, came out over the last day or so, JD Martinez is going to be out for a long time. Fracture in, I think it was the right elbow, right? So that's a huge blow. That's a lot of power there. So Miguel Cabrera is a one-off. He's always a guy you can look at. It doesn't matter who he's facing on the hill. He's always a pretty high floor type play. So I don't mind Cabrera. And I don't know how much you look into everything like road and home splits, but Ian Kinsler has been really good at home, and he's struggled on the road this season.
Yeah, and he's been the one guy that's hit Ventura the hardest here, just looking at the BVPs earlier. The Tigers in general, not really great numbers versus Ventura. It makes sense. He's a decent pitcher that struggled around the season. I think he kind of gets it together here. Again, not a guy that I really have to pick on, but I'm very interested in your take on Michael Fulmer here. Been very impressed with this kid. You and I both are usually against picking on Kansas City, but this is a depleted Royals team, so I'm interested in your take here.
I've played Fulmer so much over the last month. He's pitched 9 starts. I probably had him 7 or 8 of those starts. I'm a big fan of Fulmer. The problem is, like, we've seen the Kansas City offense start hitting again. Kane, he's coming off of a game where I know he had 2 hits right before we got on the podcast. If he's starting to get it going again, that's their 4-hitter rolling. Hosmer, and I don't know if I can do it here. It's going to be a hot game. It's a good ballpark when it's 70 degrees, but it gets more friendly to the hitters when it's mid 90s, right? Like, I just don't know if I can do it here. If there's a pitcher to do it with, Fulmer has good numbers, and he looks like the real deal. This could be a future star here for Detroit.
I agree. The kid is absolutely legit. I've been riding his streak as well. But I think, again, like I keep saying, I don't think you need to go here. You mentioned the Royals are starting to hit again. Some of the bigger bats are coming back. Even like what Merrifield has been fantastic. I mean, some of these kids filling in are doing the job. Now, do I think they'll strike out more than usual? Absolutely. They're striking out a lot recently. They're not walking a whole lot. They've been undisciplined, but they're still finding ways to make contact, get hits, and have those tough at-bats. And this will be Fulmer's best or biggest test, I think, so far in his young career. I think he pitches well, but again, in that price range, with some of the arms with probably more upside, a guaranteed win. Not that anything's guaranteed, but we certainly like to win better. I don't think I have to go here again because to me this game's more of a coin flip. Slight edge to the Tigers just because Fulmer's been so good and Ventura hasn't been at his best. But I mean, I just don't see 7 innings and 7 Ks from Fulmer. I think Kansas City can score 2, 3, maybe even 4 runs off of him. And it's just to me the upside is limited there in this matchup.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Merrifield. Love him in this spot. Love Hosmer, like Kane, and Sal Perez is hitting the ball hard.
And at some point, Kendrys Morales is going to wake up. And even Chester Cuthbert's a pretty good young hitter, too. They're still deep. They're still 7, maybe even 8 hitters deep. They've got a bit of speed. They've got good contact. Yes, they're striking out more. But again, I just don't think you have to go here. Although, if you want to be that ultra contrarian guy and you're looking for that pitcher that can go 7, strike out 7, and get a win that's going to be 10% less owned, Fulmer's probably that guy.
Yeah, you can look at Brett Eibner. He's back too, activated from the DL. He's 4,500 on Fantasy Draft if he's in the starting lineup. He's another guy you can look at. This is another one of these young hitters that the Royals have that can hit the baseball as well. Don't want to spend too much time on the Royals and Tigers, so let's move on to Texas at St. Louis. This is a good baseball game. This is going to be a good baseball game. Don't know how much it's going to be fantasy relevant, but this is going to be a good baseball game. Cole Hamels, Michael Wacha. Any thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic game to watch and a fantastic game to fade in DFS. I do not want to pick on Hamels or Wacha, and I don't love either one of them in the matchup enough to roster them. So on a 14-game slate, I love the fact that we have these games I can look at it and go, nope and nope.
I'm going to agree on the great baseball thing. I like some of the Texas bats in this matchup with Wacha. Wacha, I don't know if Wacha is a guy that we really need to be scared of anymore. Just looking at everything this year, the contact rate is up. The line drive rate is up. The fly ball rate pretty still neutral, but man, the walks, his whip is at 1.45 this season. That's really high for a guy that is a really good pitcher.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. He's not pitched as well as we thought this year. He's not become the star we thought after seeing him first come up, but still good changeup, still a great curveball, still has pretty good control. I just feel like at some point he's going to get it together and pitch better. Good ballpark for pitchers. And to me, it's like Texas is a team that I have trouble trusting. One night it's Odor, the next night it's Profar, next night it's Desmond, especially if it's a lefty. But they don't seem to come together in the same night and put up a big number. I don't know where to go with Texas. I guess that's their problem too. I don't want to stack Texas because you never get a good feeling for one of their 7 hitters here. And a one-off, I feel like I'm guessing, and I don't need to guess versus Wacha. I don't mind Profar or Odor because they're both lefties and it just splits in their favor here. But St. Louis also a good bullpen. I just don't see a whole lot of upside going to Texas. I won't have any exposure to them anywhere, even though I do see, why you might want to take a couple of bats.
I like Odor and Mazzara on FanDuel. Both these guys really cheap. They're on the road, so there's a good chance they're going to get at least 4 at-bats here. I just feel like those are the two guys I'm going to look at. Maybe even Chu. I think you can throw in Chu as long as he is still healthy. I don't know. It's been a few days now, so he can only, he can only usually. So if Chu's in the lineup, if he's in that leadoff spot, he's only like $3,100 on FanDuel as well. So some good value. Only $6,800 on Chu over on Fantasy Draft. So if he's in the lineup in that leadoff spot, he's another guy that I would look at here.
Yeah, and again, Texas could be sneaky. Like Stevie said, Waka's not been good. Mazara, Chu, Odor, Profar, all pretty cheap, all in good spots. I mean, Chu must be healthy. He stole a base for the first time in 2 years the night there. So you got to assume he's healthy, ripping off a couple hits and stealing a bag. It seems like forever since he's been stealing bases. So they're cheap. I just don't know if you can trust them in cash. That the matchup's tough, even though they're cheap. So I think you're better off with like a mini stack or a stack of Texas because, again, highly underowned. I don't think you need to go there in cash, though.
All right, let's move on here. Angels. Do you like any, before we move on, do you like any of the Cardinals bats here against Hamels?
Again, Hamels not a guy that I want to pick on. Obviously, a righty with some power could take Hamels deep. Again, maybe as a a la carte play with a Steven Piscotty, perhaps. Johnny Peralta, the silent eights there. I don't mind either of those two. Again, if you're looking to be ultra contrarian, maybe you're putting a lab together, just 7 or 8 random hitters that are in decent spots or have the splits in their favor that nobody's really going to be on. Piscotty and Peralta can play that for me. But, again, I'm not really looking to go there.
Yeah, I think this is a game, for the most part, I'm going to stay away outside of some of those cheap Texas bats. Angels at Oakland, another ballpark that we like to target pitchers in. Matt Schumacher. Do you believe in the resurgence of Matt Schumacher here?
I mean, the maker of Shoe. Look, this guy has been unbelievable. The only problem here, again, is that Oakland is not a team that offers up a lot of strikeouts, and they kind of kill fantasy upside. Are we afraid of Oakland with a righty? No, not really. More so the lefty. But they make enough contact and take you deep into counts, and they don't strike out enough to really make me think, yeah, I want to pay up for Shoemaker, whose price is rising because of how dominant he's been. I mean, he has been fantastic. Not that his price is crazy high. I mean, it's been slow to rise. But I guess I may end up using him a few times at GPPs because I'm a guy that on a night like tonight will throw out 20, 25 lineups. But he's not a guy that I'm reaching for.
I think that's fair. A really fair point. I think he's going to be highly owned. I don't think that's crazy to think that either. He's been pitching so well. A lot of people have been paying attention to this guy has double-digit strikeouts in 3 of the last 5 games. A lot of people are paying attention to that. A lot of people are game log people. I think he's going to be highly owned, and I don't love this spot for him here against the Oakland offense, but I feel like this is a spot that he's pretty safe. Graveman stinks. Graveman has 0 upside, 0 strikeout rate. So I feel like the win's there for Schumacher, and I think he could pitch deep into this game. We saw Colby Lewis go a complete game against Oakland yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. And if you're looking at it on a site like, any site, I guess, is a second or a 1, when you consider what I said earlier, and GPPs more so, if you need that win, it's probably there. You mentioned the 3 to 5 double-digit Ks in his last 3 of his last 5 starts. And in between that, he's got 8 and 6, and those 6 came against the Yankees, which is a tough team to strike out. So the Ks have been dominant really in 5 straight games. So you got to figure Oakland's not going to hit him that hard. They're not great versus righties, and he's been terrific. You have to figure the win's going to be there. I agree. He's going to go deep. He's gone into the 8th inning and 4 of those last 5 starts, and then the other start he went 7. So he's going to go deep. And even though Oakland doesn't strike out a ton, would it shock any of us if he had a K for any 7 innings, 7 Ks? No. So that certainly puts him on the GPP radar as well. Oakland's ability to just not strike out tempers me a little bit with Shoemaker. And the fact that he's kind of like Matt Harvey to me, it's like, do I want to believe in this version of him? I do, but I can't do it 100%,
No, I definitely know. You don't have to tell me anything about Matt Harvey. On Fantasy Draft, Schumacher is 16.8. I think he's cash game playable at that price tag. That's just, it's too cheap for him over there. So over there, I think he's an excellent SP2.
Yeah, he's a safe SP2 anywhere. I don't think he's going to hurt you. For the reasons we mentioned, Oakland's not going to beat him up, I don't think. And even if he goes 7 and strikes out 5 and gets a win, that's as an SP2. Yeah, we'll take it.
Now I mentioned Graveman. He's a guy high contact rate, doesn't strike out a lot of people. we don't want to target him a lot, but I feel like there's a few bats that we can look at. Jeffrey Marte continues to hit out, Calhoun, Trout, Pujols. I feel like we could target him with those four guys.
Yeah, I agree. And Graham, like you said, another guy we have to go after, even though he's been bad, he's a ground ball specialist, and he limits the damage there, doesn't put a lot of balls in the air. And that ballpark also limits the home run upside for the Angels. That with the fact that the Angels have not been a good offense this year kind of tempers your expectations, I think. But, the guys you mentioned, Calhoun, Trout, Pujols especially, they have the upside there. Marte's been excellent. He's very cheap across the industry. That's about the four I like. I mean, you could say Giovatello, who's been better. You could mention Janelle Escobar leading off, but I'm not big fans of those guys. They're not great hitters. So a 3 or 4 man stack from the Angels wouldn't be a bad idea because of the ballpark and how bad the Angels have been, I could see that being a highly underowned stack as well.
I only target Oakland bats against lefties. I have no interest in any of these guys here.
Nope, I'm with you. Not the way Shoemaker's pitching as well.
Milwaukee at Los Angeles, the Dodgers here. Zach Davies against Julio Urias. Finally, a good start from the young kid. I say good start. It was much better over the last 2 starts than his first 2 starts.
Yeah, you could say terrific in his last 2 starts. I mean, he only went 4 innings versus Colorado, struck out 7, 5 1/3 versus San Francisco. A real tough team to strike out. He struck out 7 more. So the strikeout upside is certainly there for Urias. He has been fantastic in that regard. 3-to-1 strikeout to walk rate, which is really nice to see from a young guy. The only worry here is pitch count. He's never thrown more than 86 pitches. We know they're going to baby him. And we know that Milwaukee is a much better team versus lefties, even though they strike out quite a bit. And the ballpark's going to be good for him. The pitch count and taking into consideration Milwaukee's a solid team versus lefties, he's a guy that I want to love more than I think we should, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfectly good sense. It makes a lot of sense because they've already said that they're going to limit this guy's innings this season. He's not – I think they said 2 more starts, and he's going to be limited after that, which will probably see him go to the bullpen. So, honestly, just because I don't see him pitching 100 pitches, I don't see him pitching 6 or 7 innings. Yeah, he's $6,800 on FanDuel, but I would rather play some of these other guys that we talked about because, honestly, I just don't see the upside here.
Yeah, it's limited. I mean, you can, to a certain degree, understand what you mean by upside. You don't see him going deep. The wind may not be there for him, and these ready bats from Milwaukee. The upside is certainly the strikeouts with a team that strikes out a lot. But is he going to get the chance to have a dominant performance? That's the issue. He is pretty cheap across the industry, but he's a real tough guy to trust. I think he's GPP only for sure, and more so even as a GPP 2 when you're trying to load up on a couple of expensive teams. Say you want to stack Houston and Boston together. So you throw Urias as a GP2 with another cheaper pitcher to get those bats in. I get on board with that. But maybe on a site like FanDuel as a one-off pitcher GPP, I'm not sure that's the way to go with so many good arms already moderately priced that will pitch longer in the game and have the ability to generate more points.
I would rather punt a position or 2 and take a pitcher I know that could pitch deeper into a game that's probably in a better spot, and rather just have the punt hitters and hopefully one of those guys hits a home run instead of saving the cap with the pitcher here. Zach Davies, I feel like this is a guy we actually need to talk about a little bit. His last 4 starts, all at home, have been decent. He really hasn't gotten rocked, and we look at the matchups: Cincinnati, St. Louis, Oakland, and New York. He's beat all 4 of them.
Yeah, and he's generating some strikeouts in doing so. No real splits either way. He's a 23-year-old kid. He's been a prospect for Milwaukee for a while. They bounced him up down the last couple of years, expecting him to eventually turn into a very good number 2 or 3 starter. And it looks like he's starting to do that. Never a guy that's been hit hard by lefties, which is unusual for a righty. And with the Dodgers struggling so badly, I don't know that we have to pick on him whatsoever. Usually, a guy like Adrian Gonzalez is always in play. He's been an absolute beast versus running and pitching throughout his career. And Corey Seager, of course, obviously, too, a guy that's certainly plays well here. But I don't know that we want to stack them with guys like Jock Peterson, Utley, Grandal. Davis has pitched well. Like I said, lefties don't really hit him that hard. The Dodgers have been so inept recently that, man, they're almost an afterthought when it comes to stacking or going there. Could we really even consider stacking the Dodgers almost regardless of who they're facing?
Yeah, I don't know. The Dodgers they're so cold. I want to, we're doing the podcast while the Dodgers are playing. I want to kind of see how that game pans out. Like, if they can't hit Junior Guerrera in that game, can they really hit Zach Davies?
Yeah, two similar pitchers too. That's similar stuff. They both throw mid to low 90s fastballs and good off-speed pitch. They don't have splits either way. So this is a good. This will give us a good assessment here as we do the podcast. It's only the top of the second there, but as you said, I think Adrian Gonzalez is safe in any format. And if you want a moderately priced guy, or even a cheaper priced guy at first base that has home run upside that nobody's on, Gonzalez is certainly there for you. And again, I don't mind Seager, but to stack these Dodgers, I just don't know. There's just no upside. The ballpark's not great. Davies is pitching well. Until they get going, I can't go there. I'm thinking maybe a one-off only with a Seager or an Agon, and I probably won't even go there necessarily.
Yeah, Seager's the one guy that I'm always interested at a limited shortstop position. Over a 200 ISO to lefties and righties since being called up last year. The guy, he's legit, but I just don't know if this is the type of matchup. And if Jock hits another home run on Thursday night, he's swinging the bat really hot. He would be a one-off tournament play as well.
Absolutely always in play for tournaments versus a righty.
Ryan Braun, I feel like we need to talk about him. He's a guy that, throughout his career, he's hit left-handed pitching really well, and it looks like Ryan Braun might actually be a little healthy this season. He's hitting the ball really well, hitting over 300. He has 11 home runs, 11 doubles. Do you believe in Ryan Braun here?
Yeah, I do believe in the skill set. It's always been there for me. Again, as you say, we think he's healthy here. These righties are awful sneaky. And again, if you're a guy that loves to play multiple lineups or you're a guy that loves to go, 5 or 6 contrarian lineups, Milwaukee's righties, we know how good they are at home versus righties. So not the same team on the road, but Urias is still young. This is a 19-year-old kid. He can still struggle. Chris Carter, Jonathan LaCroix, Jonathan VR, and, of course, the aforementioned Ryan Braun all hit left-handed pitching very well. I think the kid pitches great, or he gets beat up a little bit early on. That's kind of where I am. So if I'm going to have exposure to him, kind of like the Cincinnati Reds, I may have 1 or 2 lineups with Milwaukee versus Urias here because, I can't totally trust the kid just yet, and they have some big-time thump with their righties.
Yeah, Aaron Hill, another maybe a one-off tournament play. Lucroy doesn't really have the power anymore, but always a pretty safe option at catcher to get you a hit or two. And honestly, outside of that, Chris Carter, another pop hitter. But, yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, it's a young pitcher, so keep that in the back of your head. Milwaukee might be sneaky, but I just don't know if this is the spot with all these games that we like, if it's really a spot that you want to do it.
Yeah, certainly more of a contrarian play. There's some merit to go in there. But, again, yeah, that's basically contrarian. I certainly wouldn't have Milwaukee in my top 5 stacks tonight.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. Washington at San Diego, Joseph Ross against Kristen Frederick. Joe Ross, we finally got here. We finally got to the guy that I want as my safe/cash game/optimal pitcher here on the slate.
Yeah, I think Ross is probably your safest bet here. We talked about Harvey versus Atlanta being pretty safe because Atlanta's so bad. But again, Harvey, until we know he's on track 100%, it's tough to go there. Ross has been great all season long. He has shut down righties throughout his career. Righties don't touch him at all. 180 batting average against, a 224 WOBA. Off the charts numbers here for Ross versus righties, which is important in this matchup because the Padres are predominantly right-handed. They're also, dead last in batting average, WOBA, and WRC plus versus righties, that being the Padres, to go along with the 4th highest strikeout rate in the majors. So the Padres, a team we know we can pick on versus righties. Ross has been very good versus righties. I think he can pitch deep. I think he generates lots of strikeouts. And I think that this Nationals will get enough run support for him versus Kristen Friedrich.
Yeah, I think so as well. So let's talk bats here. I'm not really going to pick on Joe Ross here.
No, I see no reason to. I mean, hasn't fared as well versus lefties as he has against righties, but he's not getting torched by them either. And who are the lefties you're afraid of in this Padres team? None. So there's no reason to go there. You only want to go to San Diego when they're facing a lefty and there's some upside there. I don't see it at all versus the right-handed pitching Ross here.
Yeah, don't see the upside here as well. Looking at Washington, Anthony Rendon really stands out to me. We kind of expect Zimmerman to be back in the lineup here. Anything that I'm missing that you like here?
Not really. The ballpark kind of kills a little bit of this. I know that it's been much better this season. But Friedrich has actually pitched quite well. And now that he's outside of Coors Field, he's getting comfortable on the team in a good ballpark. Nobody's really hitting him, lefties or righties. Now, that being said, Washington's got some lefty killers, as you mentioned, Anthony Rendon, Jason Worth, I don't mind. If Zimmerman comes back, there's some sneakiness there. Wilson Ramos, these guys all hit lefties pretty well. I think, though, you're better off to either stack them or avoid them. Again, the ballpark and Friedrich's not if Friedrich doesn't pitch well and they get to him early, that Padres bullpen is pretty bad. So there's some merit to stacking the Nationals here, but I don't think I'm going to go there in cash or as a one-off because, again, kind of rolling the dice in the one-off. I guess if I had to pick a guy, I'm with you kind of with Rendon, but I don't have to pick on Friedrich too much either. I think they do enough to get him the win. I just don't think they blow him up.
All right, that's going to wrap it up here for the 14-game slate breakdown. Every day I give out 3 fantasy draft picks. I didn't give them out as we were going. I don't know why, but the 3 guys that I like under 8K here, Whit Merrifield, Shin-Cho Choo, and Jeffrey Marte. All these guys are actually under 7K tonight, so I'm going really value for you guys here tonight. All those guys are definitely in play for me. Pepsi, let's play some Home Run Derby. I'll let you lead it off here.
Home Run Derby. We're going to go each tier. We're just picking 3 guys.
We're going to switch off with 1 each, and it doesn't matter which tier you go.
All right, Marco Conforto.
Conforto it is for Pepsi. I purposely didn't talk about this guy when we were doing the breakdown. Danny Espinosa is going to be my first guy for a home run here. I love this spot for him. He hits left-handed pitching really well. Nobody's going to play him, and he's just been El Fuego.
I love it. I roster Espinosa a ton as they one-off punt play at second and short. My second guy, George Springer.
Springer is a good one. I feel like I finally get this guy. David Ortiz is my guy on the second pick. Nobody lets me have him, so I'm going to get him here. He hit another home run on Thursday night, so only part of the Red Sox stack that did anything in that game.
And I'm going to go with Michael Saunders again. He's been hitting righties so well, and right's been so bad versus lefties in that ballpark. I think it's a pretty good spot for Michael Saunders as well here.
All right, the last one for me.
I was going to go Goldschmidt. I just thought that would be way too easy, so I went to Saunders here.
I'm going to stay in that game, and I'm going to give out a catcher that I like. I'm going to go Cameron Rupp for the home run in that game against Robbie Ray.
I like it. I like it a lot.
All right, there's no pitchers over 10K, so if you had to give me one pitcher, doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but he's going to pick up a win at the end of the night. Who do you have?
I'm going to go Matt Harvey.
Matt Harvey to pick up a win. I could easily go Joe Ross. Not going to do that. I'm going to go Matt Schumacher here against Oakland. I think that he's in a great spot for a win.
I think McCullers wins as well if that helps because I just don't see Houston not gaining glamour with that Reds bullpen.
That's true as well. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Pepsi?
Wow, it's a great slate. I mean, there's a ton of fun to be had here. So many good pitchers, as we mentioned, in that mid-tier. No pitcher you got to pay up for. So bats aplenty. I would say play a lot. Get a lot of multiple lineups in the GPPs. Have some fun with it. It's certainly playable in all formats. You can't beat these 14-game Friday night slates.
Definitely agree. Like I mentioned, our sponsor site, fantasydraft.com. Make sure you guys head on over to the forums. We have a nice little promo going on with the $10,000 home run GPP over there. Free money, man. If you're going to play in the tournament, if you're not, it's a good chance to win some extra tickets, some extra cash here. So make sure you guys check that out. Also, if you haven't signed up yet, use promo code Grinders. That way you guys help the podcast, help us, help them. That way, if you like the podcast Monday through Friday, you're supporting it. So make sure you guys click on over there at Fantasy Draft and check them out. Pepsi, I appreciate you jumping on with me. Always a lot of fun. You can find him on the bump, 4 days a week?
Yes, sir.
All right, make sure you guys check out his video 4 days a week. Really digs into the pitching matchups for you. So check that out. We'll be back on Monday. I hope you guys have a wonderful Father's Day weekend, and good luck tonight in your contest, and we'll see you then.